Jobs, with whom he later shared a house, and was hired as the 12th official employee of Apple. Kotke was at his lab bench, which stood in a work area of cubicles and Herman Miller chairs, when someone announced that they had a visitor. "Buckminster Fuller's here." He rose immediately and hurried for the lobby, where he saw a cluster of people standing outside. His eyes were drawn at once to two men. One was Jobs, who wore his usual outfit of a casual shirt and jeans, and the other was R. Buckminster Fuller, whose face in those days was familiar across the world. Fuller, 85, was dressed in the dark suit that he favored for all of his public appearances, and in person, he was startlingly small. His driver's license may have said that he was 5'6", but he had been about 2 inches shorter even in his youth, and his stature had been diminished by age. He had a huge bald head with white hair trimmed almost to the scalp, a large hearing aid, and black plastic glasses that magnified his hazel eyes into soft, enormously deep pools. Joining the circle, Kotke spoke briefly with Fuller, whose work he had admired since high school. Kotke expected to talk to him further. He was often the one who showed guests around the office. But as the group headed off without him, he realized that Jobs wanted Fuller to himself. As for Barcroft, he couldn't believe his luck. He ended up at a conference table with Fuller and Jobs, who exchanged a few words while a cameraman recorded the meeting. When it was time for a tour, however, Barcroft was left behind as well. Jobs clearly didn't want to include anyone else, and no one would ever know what he and Fuller said to each other in private at Apple, which was only months away from its initial public offering. Afterward, Barcroft took Fuller back to his hotel. Barcroft was elated, but his plan for a cable show never materialized, and he later lost the footage of Fuller and Jobs. For his part, Fuller was unconvinced that the personal computer would enable his lifelong vision of access to information. He didn't believe it, Barcroft recalled. He thought that only mainframes could do that work. Fuller had devoted his career to predicting the impact of technology, but he saw nothing special in Apple. I remember him saying that he thought the computer was a toy. Judging from his eagerness to meet Fuller, their encounter left a greater impression on Steve Jobs, which came as little surprise to Daniel Kotke. In my early friendship with Steve, he was interested in so many things that I was also interested in, Kotke said. That definitely included Fuller. Since the 60s, college campuses had found an unlikely hero in Fuller, whose reputation was based on the geodesic dome, a hemispherical structure used in everything from industrial buildings to hippie communes, as well as the sculpture studio at Reed. Fuller was renowned for his avowed optimism that technology could make the world work for everyone by lifting entire nations out of poverty. His message centered on the figure of a generalist known as the comprehensive designer, an emerging synthesis of artist, inventor, mechanic, objective economist, and evolutionary strategist, capable of grasping whole systems. In an era that was skeptical of politics, his argument for a radical science of design, which emphasized universal housing and the efficient use of resources, offered a seemingly plausible program for achieving change outside conventional institutions. To an ambitious individualist like Jobs, it was a model of what was possible, and no one embodied it like Fuller, who had been inescapable in the Bay Area of the 70s. Fuller had been given a crucial push by the Whole Earth catalog, an oversized guide to books and tools for the counterculture that Jobs, who avidly read it in college with Kotke, described as one of the Bibles of my generation. Copies were kept in the Apple lobby, and its first edition, published in 1968, opened with a spread devoted to the man whom editor Stuart Brand credited as its inspiration. The insights of Buckminster Fuller are what initiated this catalog. At the heart of the catalog, which Jobs once called Google in paperback